October's Domestic Violence Awareness Month.
San Diego District Attorney Summer Stephan joining us now on how to support the victims and also the survivors out there. Thanks for being with us, Summer. We appreciate
Thanks
it.
for having me.
You know, some of the statistics, we were talking earlier about how important it is to get this message out there, to have this conversation. Nearly 3 out of 4 Americans know someone who has been a victim of domestic violence. That statistic is disturbing, to say the least. Is that kind of what we're seeing in San Diego?
It is very disturbing. You know, we had over 17,000 reports of domestic violence this past year. So this is really affecting many in San Diego and across the country.
How do we define domestic violence? Because there are a lot of subtleties, a lot of gray areas with this. And how do you define it, and then how do you even report it?
So under the law is any kind of physical abuse or threat to a person that is an intimate partner. So they're in a dating relationship, they live together, any type of family type, that is domestic violence. And the reason it's defined that way is because people, when they're actually married to someone, they're trapped. So their home becomes the place that is not safe.
Wow.
But it doesn't have to also be domestic, right? Or physical abuse. It could also be, is it emotional abuse count?
It can be emotional abuse, but for a crime to happen, of course, emotional abuse, it's part of the grooming towards physical abuse. It is one of the control elements that are used, but it needs to kind of elevate to a threat where you're feeling controlled, your movements are controlled, you're being threatened emotionally that you'll lose custody of your kids or you'll lose your pets. If you leave, then it can elevate to a crime.
A few years ago, I used to work with an organization who helped women be able to walk away from their homes and have a safe place to go. And one of the stories, Summer, that I heard often is so many of them were just so scared. And it went on for a really long time because they didn't want to report it, because they didn't know what was going to happen. It was heartbreaking to hear their stories. So you got to imagine how many people actually don't report it and are dealing with this on a daily basis.
It is one of the most underreported crimes because the victims often are led to believe that they're responsible, that they're doing something wrong in this relationship. They somehow picked this partner, so they deserve this. And these organizations like the one you worked with, that is so important to not leave that abusive relationship alone, to get help, to get guidance so that you can do so safely. Lots of people go out and get a restraining order, and that's good, that's important, but do it with a plan, because the first 72 hours after somebody gets a restraining order is the most dangerous time. You have to have a safety plan, you have to have your bags packed, a place to go, a plan, and these groups and organizations, San Diego's committed to supporting victims.
That's heartbreaking. And you know, there really is no understanding this unless you're living this constant fear. And you mentioned this, and I think this is such a critical point to make, that when your home becomes the place you fear, that you're in a prison essentially, and you don't know how to get out of it. The hotlines, the online, even this discussion. And yet women continue to stay in these relationships. They still have hope that, oh, maybe this person
will change.
And they don't. How do you break that cycle? We could talk here for hours on the subject, and you're still trying to reach those people out there that feel like there's no hope. What do we do with those people?
Well, from your DA, I would say things just don't get better. In the 30 years I've done this, when a relationship begins to get violent, it gets worse and worse. Last year we had 18 homicides, murders that were related. It is the ultimate violence. So we tell people, get out. You don't deserve to live in fear. Plus, you are not really helping your kids, because your kids are seeing this and they're being groomed into another cycle of violence. So get out for yourself, get help. We're here to stand by you. There are numbers, we have victim services, so that when you're ready, you will have a team to support you.
A friend of a friend in Florida, this is thankfully, the only experience I've had where a friend of a friend, when I lived in Florida, and these words came out of her mouth, and her husband was abusing her. And she said, but it's only once a year that he...
That is common, but it's not once a year. She's just noting the most violent of incidents, but there is the daily grind.
It's a heartbreak. So we thank you obviously for coming here and talking about this. Let's stress this again. If someone out there is a victim and you're scared to reach out, there is a hotline number. There's a chat line number, and it's all on our website, fox5sandiego.com. Click the Scene On tab. The problem has been around forever, but there's never been a better time to feel like you can reach out to somebody, to feel like you can get out there and get some help, and there is a support staff for you.
Exactly. Call today, and then you can decide when the timing is to get out.
All right. District Attorney Summer Stephan,